Christian, welcome to TechConfessions.
Hi, Amy. It's great to be here.
So, all right, we've got a question for you. What was your software-defined moment? So as a technologist, when you stopped thinking so much about hardware and started thinking about software?
Oh, that's a funny question for me because I feel like I'm too young for this question. Sort of everything has always been software defined for me. This is why I joined VMware. This is why VMware made sense, because it was software.
Is this the part where I talk about hardware and us walking up and down in snow both ways?
Well, I mean, like I joined the networking team at VMware, right? And so configuring virtual switches through software totally made sense to me, and that was obvious how you would do it. And then I learned that you need to log into Cisco switches using a CLI, and you need to configure every single port individually, and that's how hardware worked. And I was like, that doesn't make sense.
You're like, I'm not for that.
And so, yeah, so when we started to do vSAN, this made sense to me because it basically, made storage simple how it should be. Because again, when I got in touch with storage hardware, it didn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
So, yeah, to me, I'm too young for this.
So storage has been such a traditionally hardware-oriented industry. Right. What has that been like to sort of see, because I love that you come from a perspective of why not? Like, I can't see it the other way. What has that been like to talk to people on the other side of that coin?
Well, I think, so it started with VMware IT actually, because I was building our internal R&D cloud for our own development needs. And so I needed to buy a storage box, and I had never bought one. I didn't know how to buy one, what to ask, and I was talking to the storage admins at VMware, and they asked me all these questions that made no sense to me. What about LUNs and RAID groups and what to configure, and it just didn't have any answers for them. And so doing vSAN for me was doing that better, right? Like not having to configure all these things. And then when we got up at VMworld for the first time and talked about vSAN, when we told them, you don't need to do any of this. You don't need to have LUNs or zoning or any of these things. They're like, wow, like you can just not do that. And so, yeah, I think that was sort of the key thing for me, that simplicity comes from eliminating all these traditional hardware concepts.
And I love that originated from a need to buy something and just like, are you kidding me? Like
it was terrible. And some people told me I bought the wrong storage array and that's why it was terrible, but still, it was quite terrible.
You're like, I'm not repeating this process.
Yeah. Exactly.
So storage has changed so much, and there's so much conversation about how much data we're producing. What do you see? Look into the crystal ball for us. Where do you think we're going?
Well, I mean, so there's two angles to me, right? There's the data, and there's sort of the performance angle.
Yeah.
And the performance angle is staggering, right? And this is sort of where I've spent more of my year this year, because if you look at it, we started vSAN at a time when Flash was sort of getting interesting.
Yeah.
And most hardware at the time was hard drives, and they were doing like 100, 150 IOPS per drive. And when we released vSAN, we were talking about maybe the Flash device being able to do 3,000 to 5,000 IOPS. So already one order of magnitude more. Now we're talking about a single device being able to do 500,000.
Wow.
And all devices together doing 5 million. So now we're come from 5,000 to 5 million. And if you look at CPUs at the same time, they have not improved 1,000x. Memory has not increased 1,000x. Networking didn't get faster 1,000x. So to me, that's one of the most dramatic things. And this is not even the fastest storage you will be able to buy, right? Like Intel has talked about NVDIMMs that are basically memory speed. Mm-hmm. And so that's not even 1,000x, it's way more than that even. So I think that's one huge thing in the storage industry, that the hardware is changing. So every year, we need to look at our architecture and we need to look at, is what we're doing still the best way?
Right.
And will it be the best way for the bleeding edge hardware of next year? And so that's, to me, a big thing that's changing. But for vSAN, we want to do this in a non-disruptive way, right? So we want to offer these changes to customers and show them that we can use the latest, greatest hardware and always take advantage of it without a huge disruptive change. To them, this is just installing the new software, hitting a button, it adapts, and it's good, right? It's software, it's not a hardware box that you need to replace. Although, of course, you will start buying new hardware as well. But sort of from that perspective, that's one important thing. How do you take this huge disruption in the industry on the performance side and deliver it in a non-disruptive way, in an evolutionary way to our customers.
Right.
So that's the performance angle. Now you were talking about the data angle, right? And I think this is something I'm personally still trying to wrap my head around. I think I understand that we have, you and I will produce tons of photos. I think the amount of photos produced here at VMworld is staggering.
Like today, you and I are part of the problem.
Right,
yep.
and so Twitter has to store all these photos, and Facebook has to store them in Instagram. So that data growth I fully understand. And there's also significant growth in VM storage, right? But I think the enterprise is also struggling with figuring out, what to do with object storage. Is that a thing that we adopt? How do we adopt it? How do we do that on-prem with the right security? And so how does that data growth look like? And how do we deal with all of that? And if you look at the Expo sort of secondary storage and what's happening there, so I think there's a lot of interesting stuff there, and I don't claim I have all the answers for you, but this is an area to watch for me.
Very cool. All right, let's get to the real confession here. So as a storage person, do you actually clean up your data? Are you keeping that phone clean, or do you just build more storage for yourself?
No.
Infinite. I had a suspicion here. When you didn't like to buy the storage, you just made it. So I'm thinking you're just building some more.
Right. I mean, so in fact, this is an actual confession. So when I was building the R&D cloud, right? Traditionally, IT and traditional VMware practice was you put access controls everywhere, right? Like somebody wants a machine, he needs to order a machine, he needs to file a ticket to get a machine. And so when we built the cloud, we said, nope, let's just get everybody the illusion of infinite capacity and let everybody just use as much as they want. They're smart engineers, they will probably do good stuff with it, and the occasional bad actor, we will talk to them, but for the most part, they will innovate. Just give them infinite resources and they will figure out how to use it smartly. And so we were constantly out of resources, right? Until we got huge funding, and this was took us 3 years to get $2 million as a sort of real budget. We were just using scrounge up hardware, so we were always out of capacity, but this was the way to get more capacity. You could show, look, we have so many users using it, and we're out of capacity, so maybe we should get some more. So yeah, no, I don't clean up, and I don't believe in it, because people, occasionally I do need to clean up, but for the most part, if you can create that illusion of infinite capacity, and you put smart people behind it, they will figure out how to use it in an interesting way. And this is where innovation happens, this is where advancement happens. So as much as possible, yeah, let's go for that infinite resource.
It's like the old penicillin story, right? Don't throw out the moldy bread.
Right, so
I love it,
yeah.
I love it. It's a great confession. It's perfect. Thank you so much for your time, Christian.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
When you're ready to make your tech confession, join us at techconfessionstheshow.com.